Finally, President Bola Tinubu sends the list of ministers for his cabinet to the National Assembly for screening. I'm Linda Akibe, and you're welcome to the Gavel. For days, there was huge speculation as to when President Tinubu would send the ministerial list to the Senate for confirmation. Curiosity was high among many as to who will make the list. Now, during plenary session on Thursday, July 27th, Senate President Godswill Akpabio read the letter from President Tinubu with the names of 28 ministerial nominees.
The anticipation by Nigerians to know the ministers appointed to make up President Bola Tinubu's cabinet was almost at fever pitch. The eyes of Nigerians have been set on the National Assembly for more than 2 weeks to see which individuals made the cut.
I'm moving for an invocation of a standing order, and that is specifically Order 12(1)(I), which specifies that former speakers and former deputy speakers of the House of Representatives shall be admitted into chamber with the consent of the Senate. And in view of this, I stand.
Your points of order, others are hereby sustained.
Thank you. I then move, Mr. President, that His Excellency, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, who in a current capacity is the Chief of Staff to Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief, be admitted into chamber to deliver a very crucial message on behalf of the President and CNC to the President of the Senate here seated. And being specific, it is the ministerial list from Mr. President. Thank you, sir. I so move.
Finally, President Tinubu, through his Chief of Staff, submitted the ministerial list to the Senate President. Senator Akpabio proceeds to finally read the correspondence from President Tinubu with the names of 28 ministerial nominees. Prominent on the list are 4 governors, Nyesom Wike, Nasir El-Rufai, Dave Umahi, and Badaru Abubakar. Some former lawmakers made the cut, namely Senator Abubakar Kyari, John Owan Eno, Sanidan Ladi, as well as Honorable Ekperikpe Ipo and Honorable Olubumi Ojo. There are 7 female ministerial nominees, namely Nkiruka Oyeji-Ocha, Uju Onaneye, Doris Uzoka, Hanato Musawa, as well as Stella Okotete, Imam Ibrahim, and Beta Edu.
I am pleased to announce to the distinguished Senate and all Nigerians that Mr. President has sent a correspondence dated 27th day of July 2023 to this hallowed chamber, addressed to distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, requests for confirmation of ministerial nominees. In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate for confirmation the underlisted 28 ministerial nominees. 1. Abubakar Momo, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Chuka, CON. 3. Architect Ahmad Dangiwa, Barrister Hanatu Musawa. 5. Chief Uche Naji. 6. Dr. Beta Edu. 7. Dr. Doris Anite Uzoka. 8. His Excellency David Umahi. 9. His Excellency Ezenwo Nyesom Wike. 10. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. 11. His Excellency Nasir Ahmed El Rufai, CON. 12. Right Honorable Ekperikpe Ekpo. 13. Honorable Nkiru Onyejiocha. 14. Honorable Olubumi Tunji Ojo. 15. Honorable Stella Okotete. 16. Honorable Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. 17. Mr. Bello Muhammad Goronyo. 18. Mr. Dele Alake. 19. Mr. Latif Fagbemi, SAN. 20. Mr. Muhammad Idris. 21. Mr. Olawale Edu. 22. Mr. Wahid Adebayo Adelabo. 23. Mrs. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. 24. Professor Ali Pate. 25. Professor Joseph Utsev. 26. Senator Abubakar Kyari. 27. Senator John Eno. 28. Senator Sani Abubakar Danladi.
The Senate is expected to begin screening of these nominees on Monday, the 31st of July, 2023.
So the names of the 28 ministerial nominees are in the Senate for confirmation. Now, the Senate is expected to screen these nominees during plenary session on July 31st, that's next week, Monday. But before the screening, some lawmakers shared their thoughts with us on the nominees and what to expect from them during the screening.
Well, we have agreed to start the screening on Monday, and it's going to be live so that Nigerians will see what we're doing. It is not going to be bow and go. It is only those who are qualified to take a bow that will take a bow. Those who are not qualified to take a bow will be thoroughly screened. And we have seen the list. We just got 28 names, and we're expecting more. So we believe that between now and Monday, we should be able to get the complete list. But we're going to make do with the 28 that we have. So we have just called for their CVs because we don't have any of their CVs. So I believe that by this weekend, we'll have the CVs. But I'm personally pleased with the caliber of men and women that have been nominated. But we can only conclude when we screen them. And if we find them worthy, why not? We'll confirm them. If we don't find them worthy, we're not going to confirm them.
First and foremost, the responsibility of security screening, character and other screening is rests upon the security agencies of Nigeria. I believe before Mr. President sends any list, they must have passed through scrutiny, screening by the Department of State Security. So coming to us is to add to what has been done by the security agencies. So I don't think Senate is a kind of a place you come and take a bow. But for all of us members of the parliament, you need to know that we also pass through screening. We also pass through submitting of our names, our asset declarations, and things like that. So there's so much to it than what the people always says about people coming to take a bow. I don't think so.
They will answer questions, lots of questions, because these ministerial positions are not for patronizing people. We are looking at those who will be able to serve the Nigerian people. There's so much suffering in the land, and anybody who will come to head a ministry must be somebody who will apply himself humbly to the needs of the Nigerian people, so that will help the government to alleviate the sufferings of the masses of this country. The list that came, read out to us in plenary, contains people that most of us have known. Some of them were colleagues of ours, senators, like Senator Abubakar Kyari. He was here in the Senate in 2015 to 2019 as chairman Senate Committee on Army. He's a gentleman, we have known him. There are other people who are also great people in the list. But like we said, maybe when the screening exercise gets on, we may have additional information from Mr. President. All these names you submitted, what are they going to do? Let's not approve people to become ministers and you take square pegs and put in round holes. We want to match them with their capacities. You know, government should be able to use people based on their capacity and potentials to deliver in their areas of service. Looking at the list, we're happy that some women are there. The president tried in bringing women into the team so that this agitation of gender, this and that, will be closing by now. We look forward to having them come in. We've demanded for their resumes, their curriculum vitae. All of them will submit and we'll get them by Saturday. So that when they begin to appear here on Monday for screening, we'll look at their resumes and ask them questions based on their claims of what they have done.
We are quite excited that finally the list is here. And expectedly, it's a potpourri of some sort. We have seen a large number of very competent people in their own rights, professionals, and the way we looked at, although no portfolios have been allotted yet, but we can already see where it's going. We can see attempts to bring people who can work very hard. Some of the people that we have seen there, we know are people of capacity in terms of delivering whatever assignments that they have. We've also seen some young and energetic people. We've seen politicians. We've seen attempts also to compensate people who worked hard. The way it was read, there was no portfolio attached. But I have no doubt that the seniors also have their own plans in making sure that they look at the people, their competencies and all of that. Without saying much, I can already see who gets what. I can see the people who will run finance. I've seen the man who will likely run works. It's all there. If you look very well, it's all there. It's all there. It's all there. But it's the prerogative of the president at the end of the day. I think part of the mistake we do make is we forget that if we give somebody a sacred mandate, he's not naive. And some of us think that probably we know it more than them because we are looking at it from an angle. I think for somebody to have taken his time, to select, he would have selected with people in mind going to certain directions. And we just must, at this stage, trust his judgment.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. Let's take a look at some major happenings and legislative interventions in the Senate and House of Representatives during the week.
It's been nearly 2 years since the proscribed group, the Indigenous People of Biafra IPOB, introduced the Monday sit-at-home order in the Southeast region to protest the continued detention of its leader, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. However, Mr. Kanu has since dissociated IPOB from the sit-at-home directive and asked those behind it in the region to stop the exercise. Nevertheless, the sit-at-home order continues, championed by the factional leader of the group, Simon Ekpa. The devastating effects of the sit-at-home order are debated during Wednesday's plenary session in the Senate.
The Senate is aware that thousands of innocent lives have been lost since this action of sit-at-home in the Southeast started. Mr. President, the Senate is worried that if the activities of Simon Ekpa, who is issuing the illegal sit-at-home order, is not checked, he may succeed in corrupting the minds of Nigerian youths and turning them against the government of Nigeria.
I need the Senate to know that there is no one in the Southeast except the criminals who support this sit-at-home.
Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio throws a question to his colleagues, which many Nigerians have pondered on.
What has the various state governments in the region done to curb this menace?
The governors should come up clean with their security votes and see how we can get these things out of us. In my own local government, Mr. President, it may interest you to know that we've been able to nip them. Going to 4 months now, there is no single incident of kidnapping in my local government in Newu North.
It's time for the senators to consider the recommendations in the motion. The Senate condemns the sit-at-home in the Southeast and wants the federal government to collaborate with the Finnish government and extradite Simon Ekpa for prosecution. However, it rejects a recommendation seeking the release of the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, from detention.
The parties here, Mr. President, are the federal government of Nigeria on the one hand and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu on the other hand. This matter is sub judice. I am not opposed to our adopting political approach, but it cannot be a matter for a resolution on the floor of the Senate.
Motion as amended, say aye.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives receives a motion drawing attention to the unified exchange rate policy of the Tinubu administration. While this policy has received positive feedback from some economic analysts, a member of the House is worried that it may trigger an inflationary spiral that may throw the country into economic recession and depression.
Today, the Nigerian economy is mainly dependent on importation, and there lies the source of the terrible exchange rates we are now experiencing. The House observes that the importation of vehicles and other commodities have dropped since the floating of the naira by the single exchange rate.
The lawmakers argue for and against the motion.
This government inherited a lot of insecurity that discourages foreign direct investment to the country. No matter what policies you put in place, in as much as there is no security for people to come and invest and encourage export, there is no way exchange rate can come down.
The president, looking at what this motion is all about now, is the key issue. It's not about partisan or because the president has promised. Everybody can promise anything during campaign.
The motion, however, suffers defeat when it is put to vote.
Those in support of the prayers of this motion, say aye.
Aye!
And those against, say nay. The nays have it.
The attention of lawmakers was also drawn to a dire security situation in Zamfara state.
Aware that the bandits have over a year ago stationed themselves in these fringe areas and heavily armed no longer attack the communities on motorcycles but on foot without attracting awareness from the security personnel due to the far distance of their bases from the fringe areas.
The extent of the situation is further explained by another member from Zamfara state.
It's the state capital, I'm telling you. Don't even talk about that. It's the state capital. Even inside the Gusau town, the main headquarters now, they just came in overnight, kill, kidnap, go back. Every night.
The lawmakers from Zamfara are asking the president to direct the service chiefs to urgently address the situation to save lives and property and prevent bandits from taking over the entire state.
On Constituency Focus this week, we had a chat with a federal lawmaker representing Borno North, Senator Mohammed Mungono, who spoke to us about the needs of his constituents and how he intends to serve them in the next 4 years.
You know, my constituency happens to be the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. And as a result of that, there is a lot of devastation occasioned by the Boko Haram insurgency of our infrastructure. Our people have been displaced. Some are staying as internally displaced persons. Some have moved to other countries as refugees and what have you. And now, as a result of the zeal, the patriotism, and the sacrifice of the Nigerian military occasioned by the political will given by the last administration, the Boko Haram has been greatly decimated now. And people are now returning back to their respective communities with a view to picking the pieces of their lives. So as a result of that, my focus will be on coming up with a Marshall Plan that its philosophical cornerstone will be reconstruction, rehabilitation, and resettlement. That is going to be my focus, especially against the backdrop of the fact that the people are now going back to their respective communities as a result of decimation of the Boko Haram insurgency. So I'm going to embark towards that drive. I'm going to embark upon massive empowerment, training and empowerment of youths and women on various aspects of agriculture. So that, because my people are agrarian in nature, so train them, empower them on various aspects of agriculture that they are used to. And then because of the fact that our economy is in a very serious, is in a state of comatose as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency, this training and empowerment of youth and women will go a long way in revitalizing the economy of our area. And also the reconstruction of our devastated infrastructure like schools, hospitals, and what have you will go a long way, not only in bringing back this infrastructure, but it will bring about a lot of multiplier effects, generate a lot of multiplier effects in the economy, because the youths are going to be busy in the construction projects and what have you. So it is going to generate a lot of multiplier activities with all its attendant advantage of creating employment and what have you. So my focus, in a nutshell, will be rehabilitation and resettlement. And this is purely as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency that has devastated my constituency. I am in the National Assembly for the past 20 years, before my graduation into the Senate this year. So all along I have maintained a constituency office in Monguno local government. It's in the state locus. And I have people that are resident in the place, in the local government, in the local government, giving me feedback on what is happening in my constituency. And whenever people have problem, they will report to them, and then they will communicate same to me.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us, and see you again next week.